You are tuned into my weekly talk radio TV show called Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced and get happy with Dr. Marissa. And this show is about hope and happiness. So there's no gossip, no scandal. Instead, I want you to focus on your own reality show and how you can be happy 88% of the time. So I have shows and topics.
Sunday, Monday, happy days. Tuesday, Wednesday, happy days. Thursday, Friday, happy days.
Monday, Tuesday,
Happy days.
Wednesday, Thursday,
Happy days.
Friday, whatever.
Happy days.
What a day. Na, 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 na.
I love you.
I love you too.
Best known as the mom from Happy Days, and she is a delightful 89-year young Marion Ross to my studio. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Dr. Marissa, this is such a treat for me.
Oh.
My goodness, you're a wonderment.
Which is exactly the kind of guest that I like. Those who have gone through life, good and bad, and then taken those experiences to alchemize them into the person they are now and doing good on the planet. I'd like you to welcome Corey Feldman.
If you're grateful for it and you say right away, thank you, God. Oh, my God, it's so beautiful. I'm so blessed. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Then guess what? More good things will come to you.
Does this sound familiar at all? She's back again to mark my Cancer Awareness and Prevention Month show. Please welcome Fran Drescher. Hi, Fran.
And supporting cancer schmance. I really appreciate it.
So what would you say are some of the biggest myths, Fran, that people have about cancer?
Well, I would say that they think that there's a cure for it.
Okay.
Instead of a cause for it.
This is the first call-in show when I get to be Dr. Marissa, the kinder, gentler Dr. Laura. And people call in to get their life tires balanced and their critical thinking or their BS, their belief systems, smog checked. And today I am delighted to have Malie calling in from Birmingham, Alabama.
We could go 90 days and end up having terrible sex. And then you say, well, the relationship's not all about sex. Well, if I'm not getting great sex from you, then I'm going to get it from somebody else. Right?
That moose just got put on the table. And I see Josh and Jim.
I have to agree
You're
with Clyde.
both nodding. Ramon's sort of half nodding because his wife's listening. But
I understood what was going to happen if Muhammad Ali's youngest daughter, made public that I was going to become a boxer. So I wanted to make sure this was the path that I wanted to go down.
You are absolutely fabulous, beautiful inside and out. And I'm giving you Dr. Marissa's Beneficial Presence on the Planet Award today.
Thank you.
Just sit right back and you'll hear a tale of a fateful trip that started from this tropic point.
When I go, I'm gone.
Are you lonely?
No.
Nah, I knew that was going to be
But
the answer.
I surround myself with people. I mean, I'm always the one cooking for things. Or I'm always the one that decorates first and come to my house. All the orphans that have no place.
I'm going to have no place to go, so I can come over.
Come on over.
And life is so amazing if we can see it.
Jump off that exhausting hamster wheel and into balanced living with Dr. Marissa.
Promise you joy in the mystery.
Dr. Marissa, also known as the Asian Oprah. Her mission, to be a beneficial presence on the planet. Her purpose, to be your personal advocate to live, laugh, love, learn. Her life motto, don't die wondering. Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Pay.
And welcome. You're tuned into Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on KCAA AM 1050, FM 106.5, and streaming everywhere. iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, TuneIn, Audible, Amazon Music, Tiki Live, Rumble, Podchaser, Streaker, Spreaker, and more. Why so many places? Because I want to maximize my splatter zone for more hope and happiness. So that's why I have a show that has no gossip, no scandal, no K-words, no Kanye talk at all. Instead, I want you to focus on your own reality show and how you can be happy 88% of the time. So we have topics and guests to that end. If you've missed any of my past 1,089 shows, today is 1,080 podcast shows. I think I was doing podcasts before they started calling it podcast. And this is consecutive week 610. And I'm so delighted to be back live. I did take a 3-week little trip on book tour to Australia and New Zealand. I just came back 2 days ago, 18-hour flight. And I am delighted to be back, and I'm so grateful that I got to have that experience. And in studio today, I do have a wonderful guest who is a friend of the family. Y'all know my co-host, lovely co-host, who is here this morning. Good morning, Elan.
Good morning. How are you? Good morning.
I'm happy.
Doctor, we have our special guest.
Yes, we do. And let's just, I'm going to read only a very small portion of a very accomplished bio. And, but I will do my best to hopefully give you just a smidgen of how wonderful he is. Dr. Richard Allen Williams was awarded a full scholarship to Harvard University when he graduated with honors in high school as the first African-American student at Harvard from Delaware. He was the first Black full professor in the history of the Department of Medicine at the UCLA School of Medicine. He's an internationally recognized authority on hypertension, heart failure, and sudden cardiac death. In recognition of his dedicated efforts to improving heart health in the African-American community, he was named the recipient of the coveted Louis B. Russell Award in 2001 by the American Heart Association. He received his MD degree from the State University of New York Downstate Medical Center, performing his internship at UC San Francisco Medical Center, internal medicine residency at the LA County USC Medical Center, and cardiology fellowship at Harvard Medical School and Brigham and Women's Hospital in Boston. He's authored 8 books, including the groundbreaking textbook of Black-related diseases and critically acclaimed healthcare disparities at the crossroads of healthcare reform. And there is another doctor in the house. Dr. Williams promoted a new concept called humane medicine for years, which was designed to restructure the way in which medicine is taught and practiced in the United States. He relaxes, by running. He has 8 marathons, including the famous Boston Marathon, and more than 100 10K races, and by playing jazz professionally on the trumpet. He travels frequently to foreign countries where he's able to use the 6 languages that he speaks. Please welcome to our studio on Tempting Conversations with Dr. Marissa and
Elan Carter.
Dr. Williams. Welcome.
I'm waking up this morning.
And that was just a drop in the bucket. I told Elan, I said, his resume is like crack.
And then she says, you know him. I'm like, what?
She didn't realize. I'm like, it's going to take you a while. She goes, I need 3 sentences. I go, that's not going to happen.
I took an extra hour to do the show prep last night, thanks to your resume. But I am so delighted to have you, Dr. Williams. All this time, we've been mates in supporting and listening to the great music of Elan's son, my honorary nephew, Trace Austin. And this whole time, this is Mama's guy. And I've been sitting with him and enjoying, and he's bought me dinner and sometimes gives me a free ticket to get in if I haven't had time to get one. And it turns out this man is very humble, unassuming, has such an impressive, you have lived a legacy. And for that, I'm so grateful to actually know you. And you're going to have to set me up, because I didn't realize you also were connected to so many accomplished doctors. That's your job. But anyways, welcome to the show, Dr. Williams. How are you?
Thank you so much, Dr.
Can you
Marissa.
see him? I think we lost him for a second.
Can you hear me?
He's here. Oh,
I'm
okay. It's
here.
my internet. Sorry.
Yeah, you are fading in and out, but that's okay. You're centered in the frame. Dr. Williams, could I ask you to move just over a little bit so that you're sandwiched? There we go. Perfect. And then sit up a little so that you're as tall as we are. Perfect. Yay. I am delighted to have you. We're going to start with a little breakfast. On my show, I started this last year, having breakfast with our guests. And the way we do that is we have 8 specific things that we're grateful for. That's on the top of the button. And then things that we like about ourselves, appreciate, that's on the bottom of the button. So I'll start. I'm so grateful to have you in studio and to be back from the land down under to see beautiful friends' faces on the screen. What are you grateful for, Elan?
I am grateful to have Dr. Williams in our lives for our family. He has done so much for me, my kids, my mother. He's my second dad. Like, he's been so good for us. So I'm just grateful that he's here, and I'm grateful that he is on the show.
Yes, for sure. What are you grateful for, Dr.
Your turn,
Williams?
Richard. Dr. Williams.
I'm grateful just to be here and very happy to be here with you 2 lovely ladies. And I hope that you can hear me well enough. And
yes,
I just want to say the doctor is in the house.
That's right. We got doctors in the house. We got
you have to have Trace here, because Trace, whenever Dr. Williams calls, Trace, he has that deep voice like Richard. He goes, Dr. Richard Allen Williams. We should have had Trace do an introductory.
Yeah, that would be great. I am grateful for the safe return and the safe stay that I had. It is so safe in Australia because they have gun bans, and for the last 10 years, and it shows. I could walk through Hyde Park at 1 a.m. with no worries, and we have a lot to learn from that country. Elan?
I am grateful that you made a safe return, and I second that, because being safe, I experienced that in Dubai, same thing, and we just don't have that. So I'm happy you made it home safely.
Oh, love you too. Dr. Williams, one last gratitude before we go to the appreciation.
Well, I too am happy that you got back safely, but sorry that you came back before you saw more of Coco Gauff, who is playing tennis now in Australia and playing to win the Australian Open.
I know.
And
I actually watched the United Cup while I was there.
Wonderful. Well, good luck to her.
Yes, definitely, definitely. At the bottom of the bun, I do appreciations because I want you to exercise your ability to love yourself. A lot of us are very self-critical. We're harder on ourselves than anybody else. And that has led to a lot of ill health mentally. And then people realize they're not feeling well and they reach for external things. So I want you to exercise your self-love muscle by isolating things that you like about yourself. So Elan, why don't you start? Oh, she's frozen.
That's kind of a hidden message. We'll talk about that later.
Okay.
I'm done. I appreciate I can cook.
She can bake like a fiend, man. I've had her.
Yes. I've been selling on Etsy. That's why I said it. I've been making, I have a shipment this morning.
Awesome. I appreciate my ability to bounce back from things that happen that I don't like. We'll talk about that one later too. Okay. Dr. Williams, what do you like about yourself?
Well, I like my energy and spirit, especially at my what would be called advanced age. I like to try to prove to people that age is just a number and that it's all about how much energy and spirit and ability that you have to renew yourself every single day. And so that's what I pledge to do. And if I am able to renew myself, then that means that I have the energy and the spirit to reach out to help other people. And I've been doing that for a long time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I appreciate my ability to laugh out loud with no self-consciousness. I don't really care what you think. If I feel like laughing, I will. Elan?
I appreciate that I'm honest and truthful. I like to tell the truth. Sometimes at my demise, but
you are
I'm
the
pretty
truth.
upfront.
You are the truth.
Thank you.
That's right. If you ever want to know what's going on, just ask Elan. She will tell you exactly what is going on.
But I say it with love. When I tell you the truth,
Yes,
I mean it with love.
She's not brutally honest, which is really wonderful. Yeah. And last one, Dr. Williams?
Well, I'd just like to give a shout out to the importance of looking at things that you can bring into your life from outside that maybe you hadn't done before. One of the things that I like always to tout is the importance of music. And I think that being in the medical field, I've been able to recognize a synergy between medicine and music. And Dr. Marissa, you know what I'm talking about.
I certainly do.
It certainly helps to improve your life. It stimulates your brain and your spirit and your soul. And I heartily endorse anything that has to do with bringing music into one's life. And Elan knows exactly what I'm talking about too, and especially seeing live what is happening with Trace Austin in developing his career and how much importance that has to her family and to everybody that he is able to touch. So we can touch people more through music, no matter what field, what primary field we're involved in.
Absolutely. And that is a great appreciation and gratitude. We love our Trace. And is he performing anywhere in this month?
I think he has a show coming up in March. But you know, it was interesting that Dr. Williams said that, because I was gonna bring that up when he started talking about music. It really, he knows what he went through growing up, and helped him find himself, his voice, who he is as a person, and it gave him confidence. That really helped develop. You know, I try to push him in the academic direction, but the music is really who he is.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's wonderful. And everybody has music in them, whether whether you're talented, like naturally talented, like Dr. Williams on the trumpet. I didn't know that. I just realized how you can set me up is we're going to jazz together, and you'll bring somebody. We'll just do that.
He plays in a jazz band.
I love jazz.
He plays.
Yeah,
he plays in a really good jazz band.
I didn't know
He
that.
plays his trumpet
but
all the
Elan
time.
does a lot of jazz.
I could listen
Elan
to some
does
jazz.
But come on, Elan. I asked you to so many jazzy. I don't like jazz. So
This
don't
is trying to
even go.
bust me out.
Anyways, we're going to finish off. Thank you for joining us for breakfast this morning. This was, what is that noise? We'll just thank you for joining us.
To the hardest hip.
Yeah, I promise you, if you have breakfast with us for 28 consecutive days.
Shush!
Oh, that's the door. It's pretty loud
going on.
I promise if you do 28 days of breakfast with us, you will have an amazing life because you're going to sandwich every day in the most positive way. And if you've just tuned in and wondering what's going on in studio, you are tuned into Take My Advice on Not Using It, Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on KCAA, NBC News, CNBC News, and NBC Sports radio station, AM 1050, FM 106.5, and streaming everywhere. iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, and my YouTube TV channel, where if you're not driving, please do free subscribe to my YouTube channel, and you will be able to chat and actually participate and ask questions of Dr. Williams if you haven't. Any questions or comments? He has a plethora of knowledge coming at you for the rest of this show. And this is my Friday, very popular series called Tempting Conversations with Dr. Marissa and
Elan Carter.
All right. Now, Elan, you wanted
Yes.
to have Dr. Williams on the show, so I'm going to let you talk now and ask whatever questions. And I know that he's doing some very special things. He's an advocate for health equity. I love that idea. I would love to hear more about that. So, Elan, you're on.
Well, Dr. Williams wanted to discuss, and I know he's always writing a book. He's always teaching, and he's a big advocate for disparities in healthcare, and especially in women and people of color. So I know that's what we wanted to touch on today. But if there's anything about medicine you want to ask him, this is the time to call, because he knows he's a walking encyclopedia dictionary. So we're going to talk about things that we need to focus on right now, because there's so much going on with COVID and all these diseases that are popping up. And, we have a lot of things that gets in the middle of with the foods. And, I have my questions because he helped me. I'm a cancer survivor. My mother's now currently going through that. So this kind of parlays into what we're talking about, and as far as women in healthcare.
Beautiful. So
Dr. Williams, I want you to talk about, what you're right now you're advocating for the current book that you're writing, because he's probably written about 100 books.
Not 100, but I have written
close to it.
And I'm on my 10th book now. You mentioned women in healthcare. That's a broad topic, and it's a huge topic, which we certainly can't cover in this short period of time. But I want to focus on some specific aspects, and in particular on healthcare for Black women. Before I talk about that, I want to mention that we're in the middle of a crisis of maternal mortality, especially for Black women. That is, Black women who are dying while in they're pregnant or giving birth. And maternal mortality is defined as the death of any lady who is within 42 days of the time that she's giving birth, either before or after the event. We have in the United States an anomaly which is occurring in that regard, in that Black women have 3 times the maternal mortality or the death rate of white women when giving birth. There's something wrong with that. If we're all created equal and we're all exposed to equal circumstances, which of course we're not, then that's somehow odd, and it needs an explanation. We don't have a direct or specific explanation for why this occurs, but we do know that there are certain factors which have caused this situation, which may be discussed, or strokes or heart attacks. There's so many things that can occur during that very, very delicate period of time. And what we want to do is to try somehow to impact upon that. How can we do that? We note that many of the ladies who have this occur to them are impacted by what we call the social determinants of health, which are a series of factors that make them more vulnerable to serious health problems and insufficiencies. That includes things like even the environment, food, nutrition, proper nutrition, neighborhood, the environment in which one lives and works and plays, and all of these things, even transportation, but certainly things like proper medical care, which needs to be dispensed to women when they're pregnant, prenatal care, as we call it. All of those are deficient in Black women, and those are things that are correctable. Now, before going further into this, let me mention that there are a number of people who are attempting to correct this. The Biden administration is specifically trying to impact upon that. Vice President Kamala Harris has taken this on as a task to intervene in, and is doing quite a job in raising awareness. And tomorrow, I'm sorry, not tomorrow, but on the 23rd of January, 4 days from now, there's going to be a podcast by Dr. Keisha Gaither on Sirius XM, and it's I've got it noted here. It's going to be on channel 110 on the 22nd of this month. That is 3 days from now, and it's on maternal health awareness. And there's an actual day which is designated on the 23rd of January, which is called Maternal Health Awareness Day. And that's designated as such by the federal government to make sure that we are aware of this crisis which is occurring, and we can all pay attention to it and realize that women are dying unnecessarily, and we've got to do something to stop that. So I'd like to begin my statements with that. That's of utmost importance. And one thing that I'd like to piggyback onto that is the fact that here in LA, we have a federally funded program which is called Rising Communities. And as Elan knows, I like to reach out and try to do things that are doable. I don't like to talk a lot about things that I can't have any corrective action on. This is one where everybody can get involved and everybody can show an interest. It's called the program to try to provide a permanent wage to individuals who need money. And as you know, money is kind of the bottom line regarding things like healthcare and proper nutrition, et cetera. So to cut to the chase, for communities of color, rising communities, which can be accessed by going to risingcommunities.org, in LA has established a program of giving $500 a month to women in need who are pregnant or who have recently delivered or who have infants between the ages of 0 and 2 years of age. That's a big, big program. Remember what I'm saying. Note what I'm saying, that these women can get $500 a month for a minimum of 2 years during their pregnancy or immediately after, and also if they have toddlers. And this is something that, as I said, is of practical use. Right after the program, people who are eligible can call in or dial in or go on the net and look into this program. So I'm bringing to you on this podcast today with Dr. Marissa and with Elan Price, this very, very useful information, which will allow people to get some money and help out with their situations. Thank you.
Yeah, Dr. Marissa, are you looking that up? Because I see you over there busy doing something. I just want to make sure you're here.
I am here. You didn't see the chat? You don't have your glasses on.
You know why I don't have my glasses on? I can't see.
Yeah, so I'm taking everything he's saying and putting it up on the screen so people can take note. And it will always be on the podcast so they can refer back to the link.
That'd be great. Because I haven't heard a lot about women. You know, I hear there's a higher number of women losing their lives during childbirth, and the disparity of the difference of women of color. There's been nothing said about it except the information I get from you. They don't advertise. The first time I really heard about it, and I had my daughter at Cedars, there was a judge show that was on, real popular judge show. I think she's not on anymore. And her daughter-in-law passed away a couple of years ago at Cedars, giving childbirth. And she was a big advocate for it. I'm going to think of her name in a minute. And she started talking about it. And that's the first time that I really had heard how prevalent it was in the U.S. about Black women. And it was something that she kept telling the doctor. They ignored her. And it was so unnecessary for her to lose her life right after she had the baby. So Dr. Williams, I'm so glad that this subject's coming up, because I wasn't aware of Black women suffering so much. And the healthcare, as far as not having prenatal care, it's so important, because I had Trace in London, and it was a huge difference in the healthcare there. And I moved back to the US in my almost 7th month to have London, because I was so unhappy with the healthcare in England, because it's all socialized medicine. And because I had an emergency C-section after 17 hours, they lost his heartbeat. I mean, it was such a ordeal that I just was like, I have to go home because I want to make sure that the baby's safe. Then I find out after I have my daughter a couple of years later, this woman loses her life at the very hospital I had my daughter. It's a woman of color. And because this judge was on television, she was able to express it. And I don't know if that correlated her losing her show right afterwards, because she was so vocal about it. But this is something that we need to not only make awareness, but also get that out, that there is funds for women that are available to them so they can get the care they need to get the proper medicine and foods. And that has a lot to do with it. The prenatal vitamins really help.
Yeah.
You know,
I did.
People don't realize you get. Sorry, what did you say?
I said I pulled up the website.
Oh, okay. So people can see. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, you know, some of the other things, Dr. Williams, that we can do for women as far as getting this out and making them advocates about it. You know, I'm on a board of something called Single Moms Planet, and I think it would be a good it's a platform for them to discuss too.
Absolutely.
I'm going to share this.
I think that any programs that you're familiar with and associated with, connected with, that you can get this to would be helpful to make sure that this kind of information is disseminated. And there's much more. As I mentioned, we need to advocate for people to listen into programs like the one that I mentioned is going to be on Sirius XM on channel 110 on the 22nd by Dr. Keisha Gaither, who is an expert in maternal mortality and is a cardiologist as well. And so this is something that's worthwhile listening to, and it's just 3 days away. It's not something that's in the past. It's something that's coming up if people want to become more informed about what's going on with that. The final thing that I would say is that the organization that I founded, called the Association of Black Cardiologists, is entering its 50th year this year. And one of the things that we do and have done for a long while is to focus on the health of Black women, but also women in general. This is something that is swept under the rug in general, and we need to bring it out and dust it off and make sure that folks know that women, and particularly minority women, are very, very much challenged in regards to their heart health. Things like hypertension and things like stroke are much more common in Black women, and we can prevent a great deal of that.
That attributes to a lot of stress too in this country. I think the stress really makes it really difficult. And we have some other, not getting off the subject, but we have some other new things that are popping up right now. And a lot of people are getting sick. I've read this week, like 3 really young people are just dropping out. I don't know if it's related to COVID. I don't know if it's related to the vaccinations, but you know, just people are just dropping like flies. That seems to be related to the heart and all kinds of things. So what do you think about about this new wave of people getting COVID and what to expect that you foresee coming this year?
Well, I don't think it's anything new. I think it's simply that we're now recognizing things more that we swept under the rug before, under the carpet. They're coming out, and we're seeing what seems to be a new phenomenon. It really isn't. It's simply a recognition of something that's already been there and has been there for quite a while, and we need to pay attention to it. Now, you mentioned something about vaccinations. I want to make it clear that there's a great deal of misinformation out there about the fact that there is no truth to the allegation that vaccines cause any kind of heart disease in any significant amounts. There's no question that some mRNA vaccines have been associated with what we call pericarditis and myocarditis, that is inflammation of the heart muscle and the covering around the heart. But they're in very, very small numbers compared to the number of people who developed that from getting COVID. And so the point is, don't avoid getting vaccinated because you're afraid that you're going to get heart disease, some kind of heart problem, or have a heart attack or a stroke or something of that sort. It's quite the contrary. Vaccination is good for you.
I really want
to the blood
the
clots.
things
That's
that I want to point out that brings us back full circle to something that we started is like the synergy between music and medicine. One of the things that I've been fortunate to do is to get some grants that have funded my having musical performances to attract people to get vaccinated.
Mhm.
We call it
Yes.
the Jazz Vax
Ah,
program, and that has been going on for the last 2 years. We've been able to appear at vaccination centers and have people come free to hear the music and get some goodies and so forth if they come to get vaccinated. And so that's
I want
a synergy there.
yeah. I want to go. I will do anything to support that.
Wonderful. Glad to
Yeah.
hear.
Now, Elan asked about blood clot, the rumor that blood clots are also developed because of vaccinations.
That is simply not true. In fact, COVID itself can be a cause of blood clots. And in fact, many times we have been able to diagnose COVID when people appear with blood clots. One of the first things that we do, especially if this occurs in young people, is to investigate the possibility that they have COVID. And many times that's found to be true. And it prompts us to place these patients on blood thinners or anticoagulants, which will help to ameliorate the disease.
Yeah, it's interesting. I actually had a DVT, large complex blood clot myself
Oh my
back
God.
in '96. Yeah, I was 2 weeks in the hospital on drip heparin IV, and I was at Cedars as well with my specialist, and she said, you know, I would not have children because we don't know why your hormones were elevated to the point of developing a clot, and I wanted to have kids. So I did get pregnant, you know, after a safe time after having Coumadin, stopping Coumadin, but I almost died on the having Chloe. I didn't know we had that in common, Elan, where I almost bled to death having her. But that is completely different than what we're talking about today. And if you've just tuned in and wondering what's going on in studio, you are tuned in to take my advice. I'm not using a gift balance with Dr. Marissa, the morning show special Friday series called Tempting Conversations with Dr. Marissa and
Elan Carter.
And we have a very special guest in studio today. He's a doctor plus. He's a pioneer in many things in his successes as a doctor and a cardiologist, a cardiology specialist. But most important, he is trying to help equalize healthcare for populations who have not had equal access. Hearing for the first time for myself, I'm very happy to know that the Biden administration is doing something about this. I do know that there is a community and grants and also the ability of organizations to help moms who do not have equal access to prenatal care, to doctor's visits, to healthy nutrition. There is a solution for you. If you know anybody who's in that situation, please refer them to risingcommunities.org. And also on the 22nd, go to Sirius XM 100 for a podcast about maternal mortality and solutions towards that. How did I do, Dr. Williams? Did I get all
wonderfully. And that podcast on the 22nd, 3 days from now, is on Sirius XM channel 110. In case
100. What is the name of the doctor that is doing that podcast?
Dr. Kecia, Kecia Gaither, Gaither. She's a cardiologist and a maternal mortality specialist, maternal health specialist.
Right. I'm going to look her up right now to see if there's information that we can pass on as well.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Co-host, favorite co-host with the mostest. Any other questions for Dr. Williams?
Well, anything that Dr. Williams want to tell us that we should know, he has all the knowledge as far as healthcare and what we should expect coming up and any new medications. So, and what we can do to improve our health. Music, synergy. I totally agree because I'm really into the sound bowls right now. The sound bowls have frequencies, and they say the frequencies help heal your cells. So definitely, I'm right there. I definitely think it correlates with improving health. The Egyptians actually go by that method they did back then. So what else could we do to try to improve and get better? Because we're fighting environmental things right now. I think that's why people are having more health issues than ever. Even though we live longer, I think we have the knowledge. I think the environment is causing us to become ill. So what can we do? What things can we get ready for?
Well, I'm going to say something from a generic standpoint, and it's not necessarily to be considered medical, but it certainly is spiritual and helpful. Instead of focusing so much on statistics and so forth, and looking at the dire things that are happening in life, I want people to focus on 4 L's: live, laugh, learn, and love. Those 4 L's are very important principles. Live, laugh, love, and learn. Remember those 4 L's. And Dr. Marissa, I'm sure that you can resonate with that.
That's my newsletter. My happy zine always does live, love, laugh, learn.
There you go.
That's like, wow, that's a what caught moment. What are the chances of that?
You know what I love?
Again,
I know
this
Dr.
is a matter of
Williams gives-
synergy, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
I know you give a lot of speeches and travel all over the world. And one of the things I know you always bring up that you don't challenge doctors, young interns challenge you. You teach them bedside manner. And a lot of doctors don't have the spiritual side. And I think that's what helps people who have no hope, have hope to keep going. And you've always been an advocate to teach doctors about, you always give the patient hope, no matter what you think the statistics are, because the bedside manner and how you treat your patient it's going to be a lot of healing is them. And you are so amazing about doing that. You've always been like that. A lot of doctors don't have that.
Well, it's amazing that you brought that up. I've taught you well.
You sure did.
And,
I pay attention.
I want to expand on that just a little bit. This whole principle about bedside manner and so forth goes back to Lord Osler, who was a physician who was chairman of the Department of Medicine at Johns Hopkins University in Maryland many, many years ago. And he was the guru of bedside manner. And he said that the thing that we need to do is to consider that this person lying in bed is a person that you have to consider first and foremost. It's not a matter of the disease in the person, but the person who has the disease that we have to consider. And we have to think of that person in humanistic fashion and style. And part of that has to do with what you mentioned, Elan, of how you manifest your bedside manner. You can bring out so much more, for instance, in how you address and approach the patient as a human. And we don't see that often enough. And that's one of the things that we find is missing in regards to the doctors approaching patients. We know that there's I guess, again, synergy between patients and their doctors according to the racial designation of the patient and the doctor. We have studies that show, for instance, that Black doctors are more accepted by Black patients because of the fact that the doctors seem to be much more understanding of the patient's background and problems and so on and so forth. Even language, the language that's used, the vernacular that might be employed. And that makes a difference from the standpoint of how the patient responds, the information that's given, the idea that some patients will just say, oh, I don't agree with that doctor. Doctor didn't resonate with me, and I'm not going to take this medicine that the doctor prescribed. All of that's so important, much more important than what disease the doctor is trying to diagnose. So what you brought out, Elan, is extremely important from the standpoint of how we get over with a patient according to the way that we resonate and address them and approach them.
That was really important in my healing. The doctor that I had that set me up was someone that I had had a surgery previous with. And when I got the cancer diagnosis, he literally, like, his bedside manners, like, he stopped being my doctor and instantly became the person, the friend, that made sure that I had the best doctors, made sure that he followed up, because even though he wasn't part of my treatment, I actually wrote him recently. He's a very well-known plastic surgeon that I had. Well, I'll say I had my breast augmentation, because it did play way back in the day. And he's someone very famous who just didn't have to be like that. And it was just amazing to me. I wrote him recently because someone gave him an award. And I was like, you really made a difference as far as my healthcare, making sure that I got the best doctors. You totally shifted your energy when I went in there. And when you found out what was going on, you even had your staff come in and made sure to reassure me that they were going to make sure I was going to heal and be okay. That made a big difference because it made me feel like I knew. I was like, okay, I'm going to be fine. And it's important for all doctors to be like that. And I know you always have said that. Me growing up, have heard you say this over and over. And you always, when you're doing your, speeches and you teach doctors, you always tell them, separate being a statistic of the medical thing as far as this person and their family. Also, too, be very sensitive to the people's family members, because they have to deal with their patient. I mean, their loved one. That's their loved one. And so many doctors. For instance, you remember Renee? I remember the doctor was very cold.
Renee.
And the doctor was really cold. And I think that she just felt like she didn't make it, but she felt like she wasn't going to make it. And I remember how cold he was to her and to all of us. And that always was stuck in the back of my head of her healing. And then, how I was treated and how you treat doctors and how you tell them to be. It makes a big difference. And so, yes, I have always paid attention. I pay attention to everything you say.
Yeah. How is there a class that doctors take on bedside manner?
No.
Yeah, no shiitake, because it really is amazing to me. I've had both hips replaced, and the first hip, I literally saw him maybe 5 minutes through the entire, when I was conscious, 5 minutes. I mean, in, out, no bedside manner. The second hip, it was 180 degree. He was, he's amazing and so comfortable and so wonderful and, very bedside manner to the nth degree. And why isn't there a way to equalize or at least balance out the disparity? It seems like the more expert your doctor is, the colder and less bedside manner he offers.
That certainly should not be the case, but it is the case, just as you mentioned. There are no specific courses that exist in most of the 140 or so medical schools that we have in this country. However, there are some of the newer schools which are more sensitive to this need. For instance, the new Charles R. Drew University of Medicine and Science here in Watts of Los Angeles has a course which is called Medicine and Society, which deals not only with the needs of the patient from a social standpoint, the societal standpoint, but also the differences cultural differences, the ethnic differences, and so forth that exist that are so important to be considered. And it makes a difference.
Yeah. I'm just getting a business idea to have a charm school offering value and diversity for doctors.
Yes.
Elan, I think we could do that.
Well, I think we may all have to get together on that.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, Dr. Williams, you brought up a great point. Culturally, everyone deals with death different. They deal with healthcare different. Some people may not be more, emotional. I know as a Black woman, Black people, we're more emotional. That's why we lose our tempers a little bit easier. Sometimes people, she's laughing. Sometimes people have, culturally is a good point. They deal with things differently. So maybe I never took that into consideration, right? I just think everyone reacts the same way, but it's just how we're brought up, right? So sometimes people are more sensitive. Asian cultures, you don't show emotion. And I only know that because I've dealt with Asian relationships, Dr. Marissa. They don't express as much as, it's not you. But well, you confirm this.
You say you're an exception. Right.
They don't express their emotions as culturally as a lot of other people do. So, and as American people, we do, period. That's why when I lived in the UK, you didn't challenge anyone. And I was like, American people, we just don't tolerate very much. We'll protest. Most people don't do that because they don't have the opportunity to do that without being locked up or beat up in other cultures. But anyway, I think that's a great idea. We should start that school.
Absolutely. And we're up to the last
Dr. Williams, that's another.
I've got.
Do you have the last word?
I'm not going to, I wanted to do something that I don't always do, and that is give Dr. Williams, Richard Williams, we'll have Trace Dr. Richard Allen Williams is receiving Dr. Marissa's Beneficial Presence on the Planet Award for all that you do, not just as a doctor, but especially taking on this very important focus on the disparity in healthcare. So congratulations.
And it's been an honor and a pleasure to be on your show, to meet you. I'm so impressed by you. And of course, I've always been impressed by my daughter, Elan. And I hope that the messages have been well received by the audience and will find some use out there, because everything that I say, I hope will be picked up and be used for practical purposes to help people in need.
And you do that, and you continue to do that. And I just wish you the very best in everything that you are doing and in the way that you are being a beneficial presence on the planet. Look forward to more jazz with you and a couple of blind date setups. But thank you, Elan, for bringing on Dr. Williams.
Did you hear that?
Yes.
Some blind date setup for Dr. Marissa.
All right.
That in there.
This is how I end every show. Put your fingers up in the air. It's all about balance. Peace in, peace out. World peace through inner peace. This is Dr. Marissa reporting live. You know me as the Asian Oprah here on Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show. Now go and have the best weekend ever.
See you Monday.